ballistics, cruise missiles, Kinzhal, Zircon and Oreshnik. Last night, the enemy used almost their entire arsenal of missile weaponry. The main targets of the attack were Kyiv and its suburbs. Residential buildings, schools, shops, a market, the Cabinet of Ministers building, churches and the opera. Once again, the Muscovites struck peaceful civilians and sites of our culture and memory, although publicly they claimed they were targeting military facilities. 2 people were killed and 81 injured in the capital. Across all of Ukraine, 4 people have been killed and 100 injured. Searches under the rubble are still ongoing in the Shevchenkivsky and Donetsk districts. And we pray that the number of victims does not increase. TSN correspondents saw Kyiv after Russia's brutal attack. Scattered debris from buildings still smoldering. As a result of the Russian night shelling, a shopping and entertainment center near Lukyanivska metro station was destroyed and completely burned down. Nothing remains of the market, which was just a few meters away. Everything is engulfed in flames and clouds of black smoke. These scenes, filmed by eyewitnesses, look more like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. It was whistling overhead. In
the shelters, you could not only hear it, you could feel it.
By morning, firefighters had extinguished the flames, but only ruins remained of the buildings and stalls. And on the street nearby, fragments of Russian metal still lie scattered. After the 4th shockwave, the ceiling began to crumble in the Lukyanivska metro station. This stop of the capital's metro suffers during every enemy attack. And every time, to protect themselves from danger, people come here to spend the night.
Everyone was lying quietly. Some were watching Usyk because our champion's fight was on. And then in the morning, the metro was really shaking. People
were shouting, "Fire!" The escalator was literally on fire, and they were carrying in a wounded young man.
This 9-story residential building in the Shevchenkivsky district of the capital also became a target for the Russian attack. The missile strike and the blast wave blew out all the windows and balconies, even in the neighboring buildings.
Even though I was standing in the hallway, I got buried under debris. All the windows were shattered, everything fell down. It was very loud, it was terrifying. All we could think was, if only we could survive until morning, just survive.
Collapsed floors and a gaping hole where the apartment entrance used to be. This is already a 5-story building on the neighboring street. I didn't manage to get out in time. I stood up and the windows were already falling on me. That night, the enemy targeted all districts of Kyiv with missiles and drones. In total, damage has been recorded at more than 40 locations. Among them are government institutions, the opera and the Chernobyl Museum. While rescuers are dismantling dangerous structures, museum staff are meanwhile saving the surviving exhibits.
We're preserving whatever we could save. What we've taken out, we'll transport away now.
It was a direct missile strike on the very center of the capital's Podil district. Within 1 block are the Chernobyl Museum, a police station, the Regional Emergency Management Office, and a fire station. The president visited the attack site earlier this morning. Across the street from the museum is the Kyiv Opera. Instead of their morning warm-up, the ballet artists were cleaning and tidying up the theater premises. Today at noon, they were supposed to stage Thumbelina here. And although the performance was postponed, the young audience was promised that work would resume as soon as possible.
We still won't give up, and we will definitely win.
Alina Lisova, Valentina Dobrota, Oleksiy Zelenko, Georgy Voronov, and Vitaly Hornak. TSN Week, 1+1, Marathon, United News. Our main hope in this situation lies with the Defense Forces, and in this episode we want to show our support. The 4th Special Operations Forces Regiment Ranger. Every one of their combat missions and successful operations is impossible without reliable equipment. That's why every contribution from you and us matters. 10, 20, or 100 hryvnias via this QR code means repairs and spare parts, and therefore the lives of our defenders are saved. Join in. Well, Kyiv, besides the sounds of explosions and machine gun bursts, also sounded like this last night. There are a few encouraging statements about the situation at the front this week. From President Zelensky, who says that since the beginning of the year, 590 kilometers of territory have been liberated and brought under control. This is essentially confirmed by the reputable Bloomberg agency. According to its data, by mid-May, Ukrainian forces managed to stabilize most of the front line and virtually halt Russia's spring offensive. Well, and our analytical project Dictator even reported that for the first time since February, the Russian army lost more territory over the course of a week than it managed to capture. Thanks to our defenders, particularly the drone forces, Russia has been losing more personnel than it can mobilize for the 5th month in a row. These are already figures from Commander-in-Chief Syrsky, and even the so-called land corridor to Crimea, which is strategically important for the Russians, is becoming deadly dangerous for them. Although not long ago, it was considered to be deep in the rear. Well, while you donate to the Rangers, we will tell you what is happening in the Zaporizhia direction, where commanders are very cautiously starting to talk about a counter-offensive, says our Alexander Zagorodny. Well, and with special pleasure, he will show how he recognized the most beautiful combatant in the world. Watch now.
Drones are buzzing in the air, they're everywhere. This is what Kivzona looks like on the front line right now. These are the fighters of the 141st Brigade. They are already ready to launch the heavy shot. A powerful drone. Here it is, already loaded with mortar rounds under its belly. But you have to catch the right moment so you don't get hit by an enemy.
Detonate yourself now.
This eerie video is the footage captured and transmitted by an enemy reconnaissance drone. Ukrainian intuition intercepts it. The main thing is not to see yourself in such a video. It's not fun, the fighters joke. Heavy shot is a relatively new Ukrainian development. The fighters quickly carry it outside, and now it's already in the air. Now it's the enemy's turn to be afraid. And yet, Ukraine has cards to play. I would even say trump cards. This device that just took off, it's hard to even call it a quadcopter. In fact, it's an unmanned bomber. It's a technology that the Russians still haven't fully mastered. And now, what surprised me the most. But where are the drone operators? They're not here at the front. Here, there are only soldiers who service these bombers. They change the batteries and attach the payloads. The pilots can be 1,000 kilometers away from the front, whether in Kyiv or in Uzhhorod. Heavy shots don't just fight. Do you see this pile of bags and boxes? That's food, gasoline, ammunition, medicine, water. All of this is delivered to our infantry at the front line by drones.
Isn't that right?
We're flying out of the danger zone at speed. The armored Cossack, a fighter with the call sign Deputat, and he really is a member of the village council, pushes this machine to its limits. Because survival on this trip depends on speed. But with such heavy use, the equipment often breaks down. This is the repair base of the 141st Brigade, but it's unusual because here they service robots. They weld, reinforce, and armor ground robotic systems. Once, for example, this was a mine clearer.
We converted it into a drone for logistical needs. Now it can carry about 200 kilograms across rough terrain. And we also made a homemade trailer that can carry about 200 to 300 kilograms.
At the front, every deployment of a UGV is worth its weight in gold. Here, they simply can't afford to send half-empty vehicles to the front line. That's why they weld on extra mesh and build trailers. These guys are improving even the latest Tor. This is a Ukrainian development. At the repair base, they noticed it was actually too powerful, so they added more load to it.
The very first operational deployment of a Tor-type UGV, alongside our custom-built homemade trailer.
It's a premiere for us.
A premiere, yes.
Testing at an improvised range shows that the Tor can go anywhere. It can even break small trees. The main thing is that it doesn't run into an enemy drone, God forbid. They remain an extremely dangerous enemy weapon. These are quadcopters on fiber optic cables that land by the roadside and wait until someone approaches so they can strike. It's impossible to jam these drones, but they can be detected with the help of other drones.
I want to brag a little. Over the past month, my crew, Serco, has destroyed about 50 of them.
Cowboy, the commander of the 141st Brigade Battalion, assures that his fighters have created a kill zone 20 kilometers wide. In this sector, he can see any enemy movement, but beyond that, only specialists can reach.
In our brigade sector, the Hungarians, Polka and Kailis have also arrived. Their task is long-range strikes, meaning, as far as I know, they can operate even up to 40 kilometers from the line of contact.
40 kilometers is not the limit. The strikes by Ukrainian drones on the M14 highway came as a big surprise to the enemy. This is the road to Crimea. It is the only land corridor which Ukrainian forces are gradually bringing under their fire control. Ukrainian reconnaissance units are flying over both Donetsk and Mariupol. The enemy is now covering its combat boats in the Black Sea with nets. Ukrainian developers are constantly testing the latest models of weaponry. From something relatively primitive like a grenade launcher mounted on a quadcopter, or these unguided rockets, to an extremely sophisticated drone with artificial intelligence that independently locates, selects, and destroys enemy infantry. By recognizing the features of their faces, the Ukrainian side is still keeping quiet about this, but the enemy has already written about it and shown it. The enemy is responding with their own developments. For the first time, Ukrainian scouts have clearly filmed this tandem. The relatively cheap Molnia carries an even cheaper FPV drone. This increases the range of the kamikaze drone by dozens of kilometers. And all of this costs just pennies. Moreover, the Russians can scale up this development very quickly. Well, I was just too active. The enemy continues to use their Kabis, planning airdrop bombs. Ukrainian soldiers have not yet learned how to effectively counter them. Here is a school in one of the frontline villages. Probably one of the best in the region. Before the war, hundreds of students studied here. Concerts were held in this hall. The enemy simply destroyed it with cabs. And yet, despite everything, Ukrainian soldiers managed to stop the enemy here, on the Oleksandrivka direction. Among them is the Battalion of Unmanned Systems, commanded by the battalion commander with the call sign Haika.
Well, that's it. It's gone. There's nothing to go on the assault with. I'm a goddess. That's how I see it. I dye my hair pink, but actually I'm a blonde.
This is the first time we've seen a female battalion commander at the front, and such a battle-hardened commander at that. Anastasia Hrayhoryeva has been at war since the very first days. She went from being a medic to a fighter, to a platoon commander, and then to a company commander, an infantry company. Now she already commands a battalion. She recently returned from the front line, where she was setting up, digging bunkers and firing positions for her subordinates. She insists that for her, the most important thing is to take care of her subordinates, among whom there are all kinds of people, including even former prisoners with criminal records. Men spend a long time at the front without women.
I am currently carrying a semi-automatic handgun.
Some looks. They
are a bit afraid of me. And I don't allow myself to wear shorts. I don't wear makeup. My nails are just normal. I don't try to wear anything with a low neckline. Especially since there's nothing to show. Anastasia speaks Russian because she was born in St. Petersburg. But both she and her whole family are fighting and volunteering. While Anastasia is holding the front in Zaporizhzhia, her husband is raising their 2 daughters at home.
Is your husband connected to the army in any way?
No, he's a programmer. He would be killed right away. He zones out into the astral plane from time to time. Commander Anastasia has ambitions to become at least a brigade commander. She also dreams of escaping for at least a day to see her daughters, who have been growing up without their mother for almost 5 years. But not now, because there is active fighting at the front. Another commander, Mayak, the commander of the 3rd Battalion of the 110th Brigade, says the enemy mostly stays on the defensive. And if they do attack, it's with small infantry groups, at most on motorcycles. But that doesn't mean there's a lull at the front.
This is because right now our actions are also active assault operations, so at the moment they are more focused on defense. Right now, you could say it's a head-to-head clash in this direction.
Look, that already shows that we're making some progress there.
In some areas we're advancing by a kilometer and a half, even 2.
A kilometer. A car can drive that distance in about 40 seconds on the highway. To take back that kilometer from the enemy, the fighters spend dozens of days and hundreds of drones. But this is movement in the right direction. And if they manage to expand the kill zone and cut off the enemy's supply routes for ammunition, things will get a lot more interesting. It seems like it started. Somewhere it's a kilometer, somewhere 2, and in some places we've advanced as much as 10 kilometers. Our military, commanders with great caution, are already starting to talk about a major counteroffensive. We are starting the process of reclaiming our rightful land and our people.